Hey loves, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. This is a solo episode, so it is me and me alone, and it's a bit of an impromptu one as well. This started off as a newsletter, but as I was writing some more, I realised that it was too long to land in your inboxes. So I've decided to turn it into a podcast, which is great because then I get to riff off of it a bit more. And what I'm going to be talking to you about requires some riffing, if I'm honest. So it starts off with a little story. I was walking away from the school. I just dropped my daughter to nursery, and I had got into the car, bearing in mind the car is 5 minutes away from where the nursery is. I got in the car, drove away before realising that I'd left the buggy at the door of the nursery, and the nursery, they don't have space to take in buggies. It was left outside. It looked like it was going to rain. So I had to turn around, drive back, park up, luckily closer to the nursery this time. I didn't have to go 5 minutes away, and return to get the buggy, put it in the car, and then set off on my way again. And I kind of wailed down the phone in a voice note to my friend Amanda, when will I be a proper business owner? Because a proper business owner doesn't do things like this. She has her shizzle together all the time. She looks immaculate. She isn't busting a sweat because she's late on the school run. She isn't spending those extra few moments finding a selfie-worthy place in her home to take a photo. She doesn't realise at the last moment that her website domain isn't on auto-renew, and she was this close from losing it. All true stories, might I add, and I have many, many more. And this is business. And what's been really funny is over the last few weeks, I've seen this exact thing reflected back to me in conversations with clients and with peers and with friends. And when it culminated in me wailing down the phone in a voice note to Amanda, I was like, there's something here. There is something here. And I know that so many of you will relate with that notion of what it means to be proper. And so with what I was experiencing and what I've been seeing reflecting back to me, it was that core theme around what it means to be a proper business owner or entrepreneur. So we have the dictionary definition on one hand, right? And then we have the personal definition, which is often the one that we are working to, whether consciously or unconsciously. And it's that personal definition that I want to get into today. Because the dictionary one, we might know it, but that's not what drops down into our ways of being. That's not the one that we internalize, and then our actions and behavior starts to play out. It's the personal definition that we might be using as a stick to beat ourselves with, or some kind of standard and expectation that we're giving to ourselves. It's that personal definition that has been impacted by the stories that we have been told and the stories that we tell ourselves, the systems within which we exist and our own selves, and the meaning that we have assigned to them with our brains and our bodies. So those of you who are children of the 80s and 90s might also be working with a meaning that is heavily dictated by shoulder pads and power suits, right? I know you know. That when you're thinking of what it means to be a proper business owner, an entrepreneur, that those killer power suits are probably coming into the mix as well. And then, of course, because he's all multifaceted, of course, and then, of course, there might be the hangover from a corporate career, which gave you what it meant to be professional and hardworking. And namely, those things would be being at your desk 9 to 5 and beyond, pushing through, no feelings in the workplace, right? So we're having it coming from all sides. As you can see, the meaning we give comes from a variety of sources, of places and experiences. And so for this podcast today, I'm bringing conscious awareness to an influence your personal definition is probably holding, and is particularly prevalent to those of you who have been in the online world for more than a minute. Because within this online world, there have been a collection of social norms and a culture, almost like this counterculture, that has been created within the personal development, stroke coaching, stroke wellness, stroke entrepreneurial world. It really needs an umbrella term, right? And that culture that has been created, those social norms that are in existence, they also feed into what we believe a proper business owner is. And they might be having more of an influence on you than you think. So if we go back to the beginning, where I told the story of me forgetting the buggy, having to get back in my car and like I clean driven away and thought, you know, when you have that thought, like I've forgotten something. And I was like, oh, it's the buggy. But me having this idea in my head, I went on to talk about a proper business owner didn't do things like that because she has her stuff together all the time. She also looks immaculate. Isn't that interesting? Like, what have her looks got to do with her ability to do business? But she looks immaculate. She isn't busting a sweat while she's late on the school run. She isn't spending those extra few minutes finding that selfie worthy place in her home because her entire home is Instagram worthy, right? She doesn't forget things. Everything works like clockwork. Like, she sounds like this elusive woman that doesn't actually exist. You know what she sounds like? She sounds like perfection. And we know that she doesn't exist. And so for me, that's kind of what I build up, or I had built up before I kind of went through this process of bringing it to conscious awareness of what a proper business owner is. And it's highly likely that you'll have this perception of what yours looks like. And the influence comes, like I said, from different directions, but that influence that's coming from the online world and what we're told it looks like might be having more of an influence than you think. Ultimately, what I'm talking about here is the single story, which I know many of you have heard me refer to before. And within this, there is an invitation for you to consider how their single story is impacting on you. And this is the story that you are not only telling yourself, but the story you are writing in and with your life. And an example of that is, so when I went and I forgot the buggy and I'm wailing down the phone, when will I be a proper business owner? That was me, what I'm telling myself, but that's also me then writing it into my life and making that become the story. And unraveling the meaning you've assigned to how you should be is a key part of that. We are meaning-making humans. And we seek a meaning, we adopt it, we assign it, we love it. And there's an opportunity there for us to wake up to what the meaning is. That's what I'm doing here, is literally shining a light on what the meaning is. We're going beneath the surface. And the opportunity is there for you to wake up to what the meaning is, both externally, so actually looking at those social norms, the cultural narrative that we have been fed externally, and starting to look at how you've internalized it, so that you can start the process of creating a meaning that feels aligned and resonant to you. So a question for you: what is the personal definition of being a business owner to you? Like, when you think of a business owner, what comes up for you? That is the key to getting to what the personal definition that you've assigned it to. And once you get to what I would love you to do is just to write down or bring to your thoughts what that image of that person is. If someone was to describe to you this business owner, what would you then think is true about them? That's how you get to what your personal definition is. And then there's an opportunity to look at, well, what is the single story from the industry that I exist in that is feeding into what my personal definition is? How is that single story infiltrating and dictating your story? Because then you have an opportunity to truly make it personal to you. One of the ways that single stories are perpetuated is when that is all we see, right? The beholders and upholders of the single story, they're often the ones who are shouting the loudest, and they can make you feel like there's only one way to do things. They can make you feel like if you are successful, then this is what it looks like. And that is where success measures are created by the outside rather than being inside internally. And that's where you might be experiencing it if you're having problems discerning and deciding what success looks like to you. And it's like, well, actually, do I want X, Y, and Z? Or is it because I have been continuously told, sometimes subliminally, sometimes outwardly, and obviously, that success equals XYZ. So that's where you're able to start to do that work of, ooh, what's mine in this and what's not? But the beholders and upholders of the single story are often the ones shouting the loudest. So more recently, the way I show up online has changed. There has been a definite shift that has taken place as my life has shifted. So my toddler, my baby is no longer a baby and she is now a toddler. So when she was a baby, she was safely ensconced on my chest, happily, whether awake and smiling or sleeping, or she could have been crying, and then I put her in the carrier on my chest and she would just be happy. Highly recommend carriers, right? If there's any of you out there with little ones. But that, her, like my life circumstance, so those of you that have kind of been friends with me on Instagram for a while will know that you saw me on there around 2 years ago now for about a good first year of her life, really, with the carrier, right? Because that allowed me to still do my work and still show up. And that, coupled with these extended periods of lockdown, have really meant that, yeah, the way that I show up has changed. Because she's no longer in the carrier, and being in lockdown meant that it wasn't as easy to create as it had been before. I just simply wasn't on my own. Let's keep it real. And also the way that I view social media has really changed. I've noticed it's changed the way I feel about it. So I'm very much an energy person, and it's something that I encourage all my clients to tune into as well. How much energy is it using for you to do something? What impact does an activity or a place or a way of showing up have on your energy? And I started to notice for myself that being on social media wasn't energizing me in the way that it had done before. So up to like 2 years ago, it was energizing me so much. I was getting so much connection from it and just really loving the type of connection I was getting. And I would say probably as the lockdowns have increased and things got more intense on that side, I've noticed that social media, whereas before it energized me, now it was actually starting to deplete me. And so the way that I decided to interact with it changed accordingly, because our energy is precious, right? So we choose how and where we want to use it. And I also realized in that I wanted to create a body of work that exists outside of social media. So I'm really proud of the content that I create on Instagram, but I also recognized that I was feeling a calling for more long form content, for more in-depth conversations and a different type of connection than what the DMs. I'm not throwing shade at the DMs. I love the DMs, but a different type of and depth of connection, which I get through my newsletter and I get through here for the podcast. So it really is just changing the way my attention was focused. Previously, social media had been getting a lot of my attention, like I know it does for lots of you as well. So it was all of those things really that has really changed and shifted the way that I've shown up online. And there's another one. And this is possibly one of the biggest reasons that the change on online happened, was because I became very conscious that I'm not here to sell a lifestyle. I mean, I've never been one to share the kitchen sink. So it wasn't a matter of bearing all, but it was also being really aware that I'm not here to sell a lifestyle. And maybe I pulled back too much, because I realize and I acknowledge that in me showing up and sharing more of not just what I do, what I turned and leaned on is what I do rather than who I am and how I do it and how it fits into my life. And I realized, I think I pulled back maybe too much, because what I realized that as a Black woman and as a mother, it is really powerful to see how someone does things, right? It really is. And I know that other people in the space, I love to know how they're doing it. And so, yeah, that's something that I'm sitting with, and recently had that realization on. I had doubled down on what I do rather than how I do it. But now I have a renewed intention and desire to share both. And that renewed intention and desire to share both is to help dispel and dismantle the single story. Because I know in me sharing how things look in my business and the way that I do things, it is helping so many others, possibly you, if you're listening. Actually, I know you too, as a listener, to see that what we have embraced and what we have taken on and internalized as what a proper business owner is BS, right? And so it takes more of us to be showing, not selling a lifestyle, not in a I've done this, you can too, here's the formula kind of way, because you know your girl doesn't deal in formulas, but in a presenting another way, presenting the other side, the alternatives to the single story, to help dispel and dismantle the single story. Because if I don't show the how, then many, many other people will continue to believe it has to be a certain way. And so as I was journaling about this, I wrote down some things that I wanted to share about being a proper business owner. It just makes me smile when I say that. Because this is how I do business. This is business and this is entrepreneurship. And it's not glossy, but I shine brightly. There's no huge team. It's me, my VA, Yolande, who is wonderful, my newly appointed podcast editor, Erin, and various contractors that I take on as and when I need them. There's no fancy office or studio space. It's more a dining room table at present, but a co-working space is totally on the cards for the future. It happens in school hours and in turn time, after bedtimes and on weekends. It's not bookended by 5 a.m. morning routines and lovely long evening rituals. It's not everyday hustle. I'm embracing more floating hat tip to lovey for that language. It's not fancy photo shoots in exotic locations. It's not a laptop lifestyle on the beach, more laptop lifestyling from the dining room table, parks, coffee shops, the sofa, and even my bed sometimes. Acre the boffice. It's not 7 figures. I do well and there's growth. And no, I don't talk numbers because I don't buy that money is a marketing tool, tactic, or strategy. Controversial in the coaching space, I know, but I say it with my full chest, right? Income and money, I don't buy that as a marketing tool. It is full of heart. It is fulfilling. Sometimes it is hard AF. It gives the flexibility and freedom I have always desired. It gives me flexibility to spend time with my children and do work that nurtures my family, my clients, and makes a difference. So business and entrepreneurship is the container within which I do my coaching work and my creative work. And what I really want you to know and take from this is that business doesn't have to look one way. Not only does it not have to look one way, but it actually does not look one way. And it does a disservice to so many when there are these parameters within which a person believes they are or are not something, or that something is or is not possible. So, yeah, this is entrepreneurship and this is business and it is learning and it is growth and it is imperfection and it is being of service. And you know what? Last week was half term and it looked like last week, which was for me the first school holiday in how many years have we been doing school now? 4 years. The first school holiday in 4 years that I actually really enjoyed it, that I rested, that I blocked out my diary from clients and creating, and I enjoyed the bounty of what I have created. And that felt really symbolic for me because it had taken that much time for me to get my head round taking a little break, and I wasn't switching off at all, completely. And to learn kind of the art of what the harmony looks like for me in this season, and all of the imperfection that is involved in that. And that is still being a proper business owner. And it is so lovely to come out on the other side and really look forward to getting back to my clients feeling re-energized. So finding your own way is a form of self-liberation. It really is. And it's not as easy as being like, yeah, you can do things your own way, because it will be those unconscious beliefs, those personal definitions that actually aren't so personal because they come from external sources and have been internalized, that can often hold us back from actually stepping into owning how we are doing things and how you are doing things your own way. So in the Root and Rise membership this month, the theme is reimagining, and I'm really inviting the members into this space of starting to reimagine and rethink about how they want to be and how they want to work. And the notion of reimagining is I just in love with the word. And as a creative soul, you'll get that, right? Because your imagination can take you to some fantastic and wild places. And then good wild, not bad wild. And that's what we're harnessing. Reimagining so you can start to let go of the systems, the constraints, the limitations that have been put on you, so that you can really start to imagine in your own mold what feels good to you. And you can look at where the hangovers are, where the shoulds are, where that is feeding that voice that tells you that you're not doing this right. And if you were doing this right, you would be looking like this or doing this or never doing that. And the thing is, that image that you have in your head of that proper business owner or the person who is the epitome of business and entrepreneurship, they're probably quite different to what you're imagining in your head. And therein lies the crux, because we have an opportunity to bring those together. And that's the work that I'm really looking forward to doing with the Root and Rise members over the summer, is just bringing that together, because you are them and they are you. And you're allowed to do it from your place of who you are. You're enough to do this, right? Even as you are. And I've got something to help you with this. So Write Your 2021 Story is back. There are going to be some of you that remember that this is something that I do every January, usually at the start of the year. And it's like a New Year ritual to help us to review and reflect and step into the year with some really beautiful, gentle intention. And given what we've all been through over the last 18 months, it felt really important. I decided back in Jan, 6 months ago, that I would bring it back for a midway check-in. And would you believe we're in June already? So here it is. We get started on Monday, the 14th of June, and it really is a chance to reset and refresh, to harness this midpoint of the year, to look back and be like, okay, how has it gone? And start to walk into the direction of intentionality for the rest of the year. This isn't about trying to induce FOMO. This isn't about a scarcity narrative of you've not got enough time or there's only a certain amount of time left. This is about walking into and dancing with possibility and dreaming and co-creation. It really is, I'm calling it a heart-led audit and appraisal for your life and work, where we're setting the foundation for you to start to reimagine. I'd love you to join us. Like I said, we start on Monday the 14th of June. The link to sign up, it's free. It's a free offering. The link to sign up is in the show notes. And how it will work is you'll receive an email with a short and sweet ritual or practice every day for 5 days. And you'll need a pen and paper. As always, you know me, there's always going to be lots of reflective journaling in there. But it's just a chance to pause in this midway point and really decide. I see so many people in the beginning of the year, there's all the vigor and vim, right, for the year. And then we get knee deep in life and we forget that. So it's just drawing us back into it so that you can walk into the rest of the year with gentle intention. Would love to see you join us. And this is really an opportunity to interrogate what's going on below the surface and what are those definitions that you're assigning to who you are, and how are they making you feel? What impact are they having? Right, my loves, thank you for listening. As always, I hope you enjoyed. I'd love to hear your thoughts over on Instagram or email me on nicola@alifemoreinspired, and I will see you on the next episode.